Hey guys, Damon Nolan. This morning we are going to replace the radiator, and I don't know if I'll be able to show you, but just as I get started, I realized that I was having some problems overheating, and I don't see if you can see it or not, but up here, the upper radiator, there is, I'm trying to bring it in, you see that? That is coming outside of my radiator, and that was the problem. It started to break in half, and then you can see it deteriorating. And if you watch, I'll probably put it back on. I mean, it just slides on and off with no problems. And that's with the that's with it fully locked in place. It just kept sliding off of the radiator. So after I realized that that was the issue, I noticed that, I'd put it on, it would slide right back off, and I was losing a lot of radiator fluid. I probably, and this isn't even everything. This is just the last, the last day of just buying radiator at $12 or so a gallon. So today I decided, it's time to go ahead and change that radiator. So that's the plan. And just kind of give you an overview. I'm here in the Raleigh-Durham area, and I went to a warehouse in Raleigh called Performance Radiator. Got this one for about $115, $117 with tax. And I was able to pick it up that afternoon. So I got some more gallons of radiator fluid, antifreeze, 50/50, universal, so you can mix it if you need to, and that's the game plan. Also, and I'll show this as well, but I'm also planning to change my thermostat, which is located right here. I got thermostat, $9, and then I've got this post. I don't know if I'm gonna need it or not, but I got that for like $18. So while I'm in there, I may end up changing that as well. I don't know. One gentleman told me that one reason for the corrosion on my radiator could very well be that the thermostat is stuck open or stuck closed, making it just too hot. And that's why I'm getting this erosion here. Now, I don't know how true that is, but I got it just in case I need it. I'd rather have it and not need it, and than to need it and not have it. So, in any case, that's sort of the game plan today. You see, I can see that it's leaking now. So, anyway, that's the game plan. I'll let you guys know as I go along. I'll try to clock in and check in. So far, I've just put it on a ramp just to get it off the ground so I can go in there and change what I need to change. Someone says using jacks. I may have to, but for now, I'm just going to start here. So far, I have started to remove this top fascia. I'm beginning to move this now. I don't know exactly where it all needs to come off, but I'm beginning to kind of piece it together and figure it out. So that's the game plan, guys. I'll check back in as I go. I just took off the front, I guess, grille of the vehicle. Want to give you kind of some assistance. So the easy stuff are these bolts and screws that run across the front. You can see those pretty clearly. That you'll just have to take off. I think somewhere between a Phillips screwdriver and then a 10 millimeter. This one here is where I didn't see it at first, and I'll show you the location of these. These are I think those are 10 millimeter bolts as well. And then there's also some clips underneath the car that you'll need to take out. For whatever reason, mine were gone already. I don't know who worked on it before, but these were gone, all four of those, and you'll most likely have to replace those to get it back in. You also want to disconnect your fog lights. That was just a simple disconnect of the wires, and there are two of mine. You can see those, but these are the ones I didn't see at first. So of course I took out the lights that helped me to get behind here, but behind the light area back here there was a bolt. Kind of there's a hole there, just a bolt, and I think it was just a 10 millimeter bolt. And that, once I got those removed, it pretty much came apart. So that's where I am right now. I just wanted to let you see the update. So my next game plan is to see how I can then probably take this one here, take these out so I can figure out how to get them out. I have seen other videos that said I'll have to take the fan out, which I've done before. You can see that I replaced mine before. That's my old one that I removed a little while ago. So that's where I'm at now. I'll give you an update when I get some more. All right, so next step that I've taken is I've taken out the drain, taking out the plug, you can see here, from the lower half of the radiator, and it's just messy. Tried to anticipate where it would be, and as you can see, it kind of jumped and kind of going all over the place. So this has been running for a minute or so, and this is after it had been leaking on the highway. But the game plan here, we're going to drain it like we're doing now, and then I have a couple of gallons of distilled water that we'll put into the reservoir, and we'll fill it and run it. I'll open up the cap, give it some more air to run. But we're gonna run it, and then we will see there's a drip over here. Find out why it's dripping or where it's dripping from. So that's relatively a new leak. Can't really tell where it's coming from. It might just be running from down here, as you can see. So, but as soon as I opened it, now I'm getting a drip over here. Not really sure what that's all about, but either way, we're gonna drain it and put some distilled water in it. We'll run it for a few minutes to clean it out. And then by then, the system should be clean, at least be clean of the old antifreeze and any gunk and grime that may be there. So just want to give you an update on that. As I go through this process, I'll keep checking in. But that's where we are. And like I said, it was kind of a hard place. I'd used some needle nose pliers just to kind of get in there. It was a little bit hard at first, but once I kind of turned it a little bit, it opened up pretty easily. So I'll put that back in, fill it with water, run it for a few minutes just to get the system cleaned, and I'll do this once again. And by then, hopefully it should be clean enough for us to go ahead and install the new system. That way we're starting from scratch and all that. So that's the game plan. And again, I'll check in at the next interval, the next step, and we'll go from there. Back again. Just flushed the radiator. Did it about 3 times. Each time I used distilled water. I didn't use tap water. And the advice that was given to me was that tap water has minerals and things in there that can corrode and get into your system. So we used distilled water, which was about 88 cents at the grocery store. On the right, you can see it's kind of a orange red tint to it. That's the first flush, and one in the middle was the second flush. After the second flush, you can see it had some of, I guess, red and green mixed together, and then the final one is an example of sort of the last flush, and definitely had a lot of water that was flowing out by the end. What I can tell you just based off of this experience is it is pretty hot, so be careful about when you're unplugging it that it doesn't burn you. Also, I would also advise you to get some safety goggles. When I was down underneath the car, some of the antifreeze was dripping from different places unknowingly, and hit my face. Would hate to get it in your eyes or someplace else. So just a few other precautions while you're down here. So that's an example of kind of where we are. So at this point, I've plugged it back up, and I'll go into the process of actually taking out the radiator. And I'll show you what that looks like once I get it done or get to that next phase. All right, so finally got the old radiator out, and you can see the condition that that's in. I'll zoom in again just so you can see more clearly. Hopefully it's kind of sunny out here, so it's kind of hard to tell but from looking at this, you can see where it basically just deteriorated away. Let me see if I can come back around. I can't see from it's just so bright outside, so I'll trust that you can see that pretty clearly. That's basically what it looked like when I got it. It just kind of deteriorated away. Now here is the new one. Again, got this one from Performance Radiators out of Raleigh. 115, 117 with tax, and that is what it's supposed to look like. So you can see where it just basically just wore away. So it is brand spanking new. All the pieces look to be an exact location of where the old one is. What you'll see here is I did not take out the fan. I just loosened it enough so that I could get the radiator out. It was a sort of a little bit of work to kind of navigate it through, but once I disconnected it, all the bolts, and also I was able to basically disconnect this here. I guess that's the compressor, I suppose. I'm not 100% sure, but I didn't have to disconnect that at all. I just basically pulled it up a little bit. There was a hook, and I'll kind of show you here. There was a hook here at the bottom, just so you have an idea what you're expecting. They're not connected by a bolt or anything. It just kind of rests right here. And so the compressor sits on that. Well, rather, excuse me, that's where the fan sits, on that. On the other side here, if I can show you, that's where that cooling system sits. So it just basically sits on top of this. You can kind of see that. Anyway, that's pretty much what I was working with. So I just kind of held it in place. Got a rod, pipe, just kind of hold it up so I don't have to take it all the way out, because that was a pain last time as well, trying to take that fan out. There's so many pieces, but we'll see if I was able to get this one out. I'll try to navigate this one back in. So that's kind of my game plan, is I'll just take the new one, I'll plug it back in, and we'll be good to go. Now, a couple of gotchas, or a couple of challenges that I had. It's gonna be kind of hard to see here, but I'll try to point it out. So looking down, this is where the radiator sat, but this is the lower hose, and those clamps are hard to get off. So I had to run to the store and pick up a larger wrench, adjustable wrench that I could squeeze in there. I'm gonna probably avoid putting that back on. I'll get the another clamp that I can screw on, and I'll just be mindful not to screw it on too hard, but it should be easier to get on and off than those. Those are a pain, and they're hard to get in there sometimes. So that's the game plan. Hopefully you're getting something out of this, guys. So that's where I'm at now. I got the radiator out. Now it's time to put the new one in and put it all back together. So I'll check back in a little bit. I have put in the radiator, the new radiator. I was able to slip it in, just carefully going back and forth in between the fan that I held with one hand, and then I gently slid it in between that and this other, I'm gonna call it the condenser. I could be wrong, so I'm sure somebody will correct me if I'm not. But this piece here and the fan, I was able to slide it in with no problems. Just sort of gently slid it in, not to wreck any of the fins. And there are some poles at the end of the radiator that kind of sit in the bottom, so it kind of cradles it. And both the fan and this piece here just kind of sits right on top of the radiator, so it's solidly in there. I put all the pieces back together at this point, just putting the radiator in, putting in the screws, the bolts that lock it into place. Just sort of navigated these flaps back together. They're just kind of a push pin in. And I will say that one tool that really helped me, that I would say if you don't have, is this tool here. It really helps to get those plastic pieces out, so I'm not tearing them and having to go buy a whole bunch more. So that was helpful in case you didn't have one. So with that being said, I'm gonna put in some, I'm gonna refill the antifreeze, and this is kind of that point in time where we'll see if all this work was definitely worth it, right? As far as the clamps, oh yeah, I'll show you the clamps that were there before. This was that spring clamp that was there before, on the hoses, and what I ended up getting was the clamps that have screws instead. Now, the one thing I would say is just be mindful that you don't overscrew, because they are plastic and you don't want to create cracks. So I just kind of used a screwdriver. I could use I think it was a 10mm or 8mm socket just to screw it on, but I did with the screwdriver. And what I'll do is I'll watch to see if there's any leakage, and if there is, then I'll just screw it a couple more times. But I don't want to overdo it, and that's I want to be careful about that. So now I'll put the antifreeze in, we'll run it, see if there's any leaks, and we'll go from there. All right, guys, so I just put everything back together. Just kind of hear for yourself. So the fans are working like they should. Turn the heat on, give it a second, it'll turn on. But I put everything back together, and I ran it for about 10 minutes and turned the heat on in the cabin. Heat came on full blast. That's good, means it's circulating. Filled it up in the reservoir, and I put it up to the fill line. Put the top back on and checked for any leaks under the car, to which I didn't see any new leaks, which is a good sign. Again, what I'll be looking for is if there are any leaks, do I need to tighten the hose at all? Because again, I just did it by the screw versus making it really too tight. But so far it sounds good, and I'm gonna let it run for a little bit longer. Then I'm gonna go do a test drive, and we'll see what it is. But so far everything looks great. Inside, I don't know if someone wants to ask a question, what's going on the inside. So I did turn the heat on full blast just to get the air circulating, get those fans turned on. And you can see here where the temperature is right now. The air is blasting full heat, which is good. I'll turn this thing back down to a reasonable. It's hot outside. It's like 80-some degrees, 90-some degrees here in North Carolina. But almost 276,000 miles, 276,000 on this car. I just definitely want to take care of it. But watch where the temperature goes. But right now, it's 93 degrees outside. Turn the air down, get some air circulating, and of course we'll test and see how it works. So check back in a few minutes to see, after I get this bad boy on the road, and see what happens. All right, so basically I've been testing it for a while. Ran it in place, and then I went around the neighborhood. I ran it a couple of times, and I did notice that there was a slight leak from the lower radiator hose. all I did was just tighten it a little bit more. I told you that I initially did it with a screwdriver. I didn't want to go too tight, so I sort of erred on the side of caution. And after I ran it for a few, yeah, I did see a slight leak. I tightened it, this time with a socket wrench. And after that, I didn't have any other leaks. I will show you, if you can see here, after I've been running it for about 20-30 minutes now, it runs about halfway to a little bit under halfway. So you can see that that is in place. I've been running the air conditioning unit. So right now, really what I'm doing now is just testing it for just anything else that you know that may come up as a result. Just want to be safe. But so far everything checks out a-okay, which I'm very happy about. So yeah, I did check, and this is again, you know, me being just very cautious. I noticed that the air conditioning unit, it's a hot day out here, so the air conditioning unit was running, and I did see some condensation, some water running from the back. And of course, the test that I did is I put down a piece of paper to see the color of the liquid, the fluid, and it is coming out clear, which means it's just water and not antifreeze. So that's a really good sign. So again, it is an extremely hot day outside, so that's it. So guys, I think at this point I'm gonna go ahead and just say thank you for watching. Thank you for kind of being on this journey with me. If you have any questions below, any comments, please feel free to do that in the comment section. If you like these kind of videos, please leave a comment, yes, and then like, subscribe, and maybe on another weekend project I'll do something else as well. So guys, thanks again so much. I really appreciate you. Until next time, I throw up the deuces. Goodbye.